27th of April 2021. We'll try and stick to the agenda because of technical difficulties. Agenda 1, apologies. No apologies. Agenda 2, declaration of interest, please, Gary.
Thank you, Chair. Members will be aware of the requirement under the Council's Code of Conduct to declare any personal or prejudicial interest in respect of any business to be considered at today's meeting. Such interest should be declared now or as soon as the councillor affected becomes aware that they have a personal or prejudicial interest in today's business. All members declaring an interest are required to state clearly what the interest is and to advise whether it's a personal interest or a personal and prejudicial interest as defined in the Code of Conduct. Any member declaring a prejudicial interest is required to leave the chamber for the duration of the business and can take no part in the proceedings. Members with a personal interest only may take part in the debate in any vote. If a personal and prejudicial interest is declared today that has not previously been disclosed and recorded, the councillor concerned will be required to complete and sign a declaration of interest form, which is available from the committee support staff online.
Yes, Gary. Does anybody want to declare an interest? No. Agenda 4, minutes for accuracy, please. Page 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. For matters arising, page 7, 8, 9, page 10, 11. Meirig?
Hyw, os di'n iawn mi ddod i mewn.
Ia, Meirig.
Tudalen 11, rhif 6, sef y rhif ochr arall, bwled 2, cyfeiriodd y cynghorydd Brian Jones at y risg ddynodwyd yn adran 14 ac yn y blaen. Di digwydd ynglyn ag yn y broblem bach yn doedd hefo amser ar hwnna.
Oes, na i gofyn wrth Nicola ddod i fewn ar hwnna. Meirig, dwi'n meddwl bod nhw wedi sbio fewn i hwnna. Nicola? Okay. The question, Nicola, was there any updates on the issue around the badger license as issued by NRW for the Children's Residential Assessment Centre?
Yes, there was. I can't recall now off the top of my head what that response was, but it is in hand and I can certainly share that with councillors. We did send a note out in relation to the badger licence following the question, but I'll get that resent.
Okay, Meirig, na ni gyrru hwnna allan eto.
Wel, chwael.
Diolch, Meirig. Page 11, 12, 13, page 14, 15, and 16. Will somebody propose the correct, please?
Yes, happy to propose.
Bobby and Julian seconded. Everybody in agreement, nobody against. Thank you for that. Okay, we'll go to agenda item 5, which will be a joint effort between myself and Julian. Queen's Building RHYL Phase 1 procurement. And as the report indicates, this is about the approval for the procurement strategy. So from me, there's no need to give a big detailed overview, but it's been well documented, our intention for Queen's Market following purchase and the massive potential that this does have for the town of RHYL. This report is specifically about seeking approval to embark on a procurement strategy for phase 1 of the development. I can say that the project is progressing well in terms of the decision that Cabinet took on the 9th of the 12th to award a contract for demolition. That work is now underway. On completion of the demolition works, we will then be able to move on to phase 1. But as we need to go through the procurement process in order to progress that as well. And it is important to note at this stage that we do align ourselves to a tight timescale, given the funding support that's been provided and explained at paragraph 6 of the report, in order to reduce the risk of clawback. So that's it from me. I'll ask Julian to take us through the finer detail of the procurement, please.
Okay, thank you, Leader. As Hugh has just said, the demolition contract is already underway, so this is outside of what we're actually talking about this morning. As you'll see from the report, the overall cost of delivering phase 1 is just under £11 million. However, the contract that we're looking to procure at this stage is for the construction phase only of phase 1 of the project, currently estimated to be around about £4 million. We're proposing that we would utilise lot 3 of the North Wales construction framework, which, as you know, is a scheme that we administer on behalf of North Wales, and has effectively delivered a number of projects both for ourselves and other authorities. The details of the firms that are contained within that particular lotting block within the framework are contained within Appendix 5. As I say, this is quite straightforward today. We're only asking for authorisation to commence the procurement utilising that methodology, and then we'll come back after the procurement period has finished, and obviously all bids have been looked at, and then we'll come back for a final determination and acceptance of an approved contractor at a later date. So it's really only approval we're looking for today to start the process, and that we will be going through the framework. So that's all I've got to say here.
Okay, thank you, Julian, for that. Any comments or questions from Cabinet members? No, okay, seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it? Any comments from other members, please? Cymraeg? Cymraeg,
You on mute, Merrick. Yeah.
Ardderchog, trio bod yn ogyn da, de. Diolch yn fawr, Mr Cadeirydd. Ia, jyst atgoffa pawb deud y gwir ynglyn â'r gwaith yma, wrth ddymchwel y lle, bod chi'n cadw gymaint a gellwch chi o bensaerniaeth yr hen le. Dwi'n meddwl bod ni wedi gwneud camgymeriad yn Nimbych, yr hen ysgol wreiddiol ramadeg, pen na ni dynnu hwnnw lawr i godi cartrefi. Ddim bod y broblem efo'r cartrefi, ond bod ni heb roi gadw yr hen ysgol yn rhan. A eisiau jyst tynnu sylw eto at hynny os gai Huw i atgoffa pawb. Unwaith mae di mynd am byth. Diolch yn fawr.
Diolch, Cymraeg, am hynny. Mae Tom Bwti'n edrych dros y gwaith yma i gyd, a dwi'n gwybod yn ymwybodol o parhau hanes y safle yma gymaint ag y medru, a beth sy'n eitha practical i wneud felly. So dwi'n eitha fforddus bod ni yn wneud hynny yn y job yma, Cymraeg.
That wasn't translated, Hugh.
No, we didn't have any translation of that.
Okay. To move forward, in terms of your question, Cymraeg, the question was about the protecting some of the special places in the building, the historical elements within the building. And my response was that we are familiar with those. We are doing our utmost to protect as much as we can of the history of the building and any artifacts that need to be protected at all times. And Tom Booty, I know, is keeping a watchful eye on that, Meirig. Thank you. We'll just wait a minute to see if the translation can be sorted, please. Okay. Meirig,
sorry, it was you.
Wyt ti'n mynd i siarad I fyny pyn bach, Meirig? Mae'n wrach chance bod I ddim wedi clywed ti.
O, mae ddrwg yn hynny, na I fod yn es. Ydy hynna werth?
Ti eto, Meirig?
Yeah, ydy hynna werth?
It was actually you that we didn't have a translation of when you spoke in Welsh last time.
But it's back on now, Leader. We could hear you just then.
Si'n ni'n trio wan os ydych chi'n clywed siarad Cymraeg efo yma, bod chi'n clir?
Ie,
ydy hynna
werth?
Pawb yn clywed? Yndi, pawb yn clywed. Iawn, siarad? Oce, dyn ni'n iawn, o'n i trio ta, na ni cario ymlaen. Oce, Meirig, dyn ni wedi ateb y cwestiwn yna. Sydd y cwestiwn arall, please? Na, dim cwestiwn arall. Dyna ni, nhw'n ni symud ymlaen i'r amgymhellion. Felly, paragraph 3, that Cabinet approves the procurement strategy to appoint a main contractor for phase 1 of the Queen's Building RHYL development. I move that.
I'll second that.
Julian has seconded. Everybody for? Nobody against? Okay, thank you for that. Agenda item 6, finance reports. Julian, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Leader. This is my usual finance report up to the end of March. I would say at this point that we're still going through closed down procedures, so there may well be some changes in these figures by the time that we get to the final outturn paper, which will be coming forward in June, I think it is. The projected underspend is some £2.38 million, which is a bit of an increase from what was being proposed last month. In terms of the Welsh Government funding sources, you'll see that we had around about £7.4 million against the additional costs funding. And we've now received quarter 4 for the loss of income, so that's the full year essentially, which was some £11.2 million. And it's the receipt of that quarter 4 which has contributed to the increase largely in the projected underspend from last month. Appendix 2 in the report shows the changes in any service variances from what was being reported this time last month. You'll see the biggest movements were in highways, where that was primarily down to the receipt of quarter 4 funding for loss of income. And in finance, property had deferred some around about £200,000 of the repairs and maintenance budget due to inability to do them because of COVID. Again, that's now been refunded, so that there's a larger underspend than had been anticipated available there. There were two requests that are in front of you this morning, members. The first one relates to the destination management plan, which is the work that we'll be putting in place in order to assist primarily the tourism sector. We're anticipating the Welsh Government will be providing some additional funding towards this, but in order that we've got some internal funding ourselves to be able to deal with that, the recommendation is that we transfer £200,000 from the corporate underspend into a specific reserve to support the destination management plan. And in a similar vein, the New Ways of Working project, we've identified during the course of the year some £59,000 of savings, and the recommendation is that in order to pump prime some of the necessary works to be able to deliver the New Ways of Working project, that £59,000 be put in a specific reserve to sort that out. In terms of the significant capital projects, the details in the report, there's not been a vast amount of movement since last month. So I don't think there's anything in particular that I need to flag up there, and no particular concerns. So as I say, this is in many ways, it's a bit of a holding one until we get the final outturn figure, which I'll be reporting to you later in the year. But certainly it looks, because of the impact of the funding that we've been receiving throughout the year from Welsh Government, certainly that we will not be in the position that we thought we were going to be in potentially April, May last year, when we were when we thought that there was going to be the likelihood of a significant overspend. So that system of claiming the grants that are available to us has worked very well. So I think at that point, that's probably all I need to say. Steve, is there anything that I've missed out there that you wanted to highlight before we went to questions?
Just one thing, Julian, thanks. As usual, you covered almost everything, but I'd just highlight that some of the increased uncertainty at this time of year compared to previous years is just the volume of a number of different funding streams we've had late on in the year, and each one has to be accounted for properly. So you know, we know the total amount of funding that we've had, but we're dealing with Wales Audit Office and Welsh Government to make sure that we actually account for it correctly and which year it gets applied to. So it's those sort of details that could change the position between now and. Thank you.
Thank you both for that. We'll open up to questions for Cabinet members, please.
Yeah, Chair, can I come in, please?
Yeah, Mark, please.
Yeah, just two quick ones. The disallowed number, is that, do we accept that, or is it work in progress, or is that the figure we've agreed, or are we challenging it in any way? And also the underspend, obviously we've asked some money off Welsh Government because we said we were going to be challenged financially. Now there's an underspend. Can they ask for that back, or is that ring fenced? Just those two questions, please. But obviously good piece of work, and the accounts show how much work's gone in. So thank you for that. Just those two questions, please.
Steve or Julian?
Steve, I was just going to say, in terms of the disallowed items, clearly some of the ones that go back some time are items that I think we've spoken about previously that have been disallowed and are going to remain disallowed. Steve might be able to update on some of the more recent ones where there's still some queries in terms of January, and obviously we're still waiting for receipt of February's payments.
Yes, some of those disallowed ones, generally we're okay with them, and you know, it's a iterative process where we put claims in and we discuss. It's all different departments in Welsh Government that the claim gets sent to, so different departments have different approaches. So but also some of the some of those items actually have come back on claims when Welsh Government have done a further work or further funding has become available. So some of them actually get paid. We resubmit them in a following month. For example, would that be they were quite strict on schools ICT stuff to begin with. So they said no to some of that, but actually we got the okay to claim for those at a later claim. So some of it isn't completely disallowed. We have challenged them, and they've come back on previous claims. As far as there's no prospect of clawback of any grant. The grants were for specific expenditure and losses of income that have been assessed as and when those claims have been put through. I guess as everything, as any grant, there will be a process of audit, and that's the risk. Is whether especially at the beginning of the financial year, the guidance possibly wasn't as detailed as a grant that has been a year in the formation, and all the paperwork and everything was set up. So there might be bits and bobs that come through on audits, either from our side, from our Audit Wales review work on the statement of accounts, or indeed from the audit of Welsh Government's work. So that's the only risk really, is just things around the audit.
And I think the other thing we just need to point out, just to flag it, and we'll obviously say this more when we get to the outturn paper, but more so this year than any other year, that underspend figure, whatever it eventually turns out to be, means that because of COVID, there's been delays in delivering some items. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's an underspend and we can suddenly start spending it on something else. It just means it's delayed spending that will be incurred, in the what is now the current financial year. So I don't want anybody to think that we suddenly found a couple of million quid or whatever. I just wanted to flag that one up early.
Happy with that, Mark? Brian?
Yeah, just following on from that comment from Julian, I think we need to make it clear. I think somebody out there that you've got an underspend, and then Julian's just explained, well, actually, it's not an underspend. It's still accounted for. So that message needs to get out there to members, because I think there's a few members already latched on that there's a couple of £1 million sitting in
Brian, we can't see you. Would you be able to switch your screen off to see if it's any better?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's great.
Better,
Thanks, Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't very sophisticated, what I said anyway, but I'll go through it. Yeah, the point, just following on the point from Julian about we're talking underspend here, £2 million, whatever it might be, but actually it's not an underspend. And I think we need to get that message out to members that it's not an underspend for the reasons Julian's just explained. It's not an underspend, it's allocated going forward elsewhere.
Okay, thank you, Brian. That's a point made there. Any other questions, comments from Cabinet members?
Just Chair, just on that point. So if it's not an underspend, and that's why I asked the question, you've explained it, does it need wording differently, just to be so it is clear, as Councillor Jones had just said? The way it's worded, you could take it the wrong way, and I just wondered if it should be.
Well, I mean, Steve will probably come back on this from a technical perspective. I mean, from a technical perspective, yes, it is an underspend because it's money that hasn't been spent in the financial year in which it was allocated. And that is, I suppose, that's the layman's definition of what an underspending year is. The devil's always in the detail, and the detail is that there are always some elements of whatever underspend that we end up with at the end of the year, which are genuine underspends, and there are some which are simply delayed expenditure, which are then could then have been spent on the 1st of April, but then would come into the next financial year. And I was just trying to explain that this year, and it will, and I think we'll probably go into this in more detail when we do the final outturn report. This year, more than any year, because of the impacts of COVID, right throughout the authority, things haven't necessarily materialised, but they are going to. That money is going to be spent. But I suppose from a strict legal perspective, it is an underspend in terms of the accounting procedures.
Chair,
Steve, yeah, you can now say that properly. Yeah.
no, that's fine. I was just going to use an example. If you look at Appendix 1, that will come down.
We can't hear you, Steve.
Steve, you breaking up.
You're going to have to switch your screen off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, that's fine.
Is it better? Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying on Appendix 1, so the 2.3 million underspend that's quoted in the report, a lot of that will go towards allowing services to carry forward their funds. Now, these will all be listed in the outturn report for Cabinet to either approve or not approve. And that's why it's presented like this at the moment, because I don't decide whether services can carry forward funds. That's a Cabinet decision. So, for example, on my service, finance and property, as Julian alluded to, that most of that 200 relates to delays in repairs and maintenance. Well, that repairs and maintenance work still needs to happen. So my request to carry that funding forward is that I try and catch up that repairs and maintenance backlog this financial year, so 21-22. But I can only do that if the overall position is an underspend. So some of that 2.3 will be used to actually allow me to carry forward my underspend to carry out that work next financial year. So what I'll be left with is all the overspends that you can see funded from the corporate contingency. So the underspend will fall by the time we get to year end, but only because I will be proposing that services are allowed to carry forward their underspends for specific reasons that will be listed, and will be up to Cabinet then to approve that they're happy with those requests for carry forward. So there's nothing hidden. If I would just sort of pretend, offset one against the other now, then it wouldn't be transparent and open. So we're just trying to be transparent and open and allow Cabinet to make those decisions. Hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. So what we're saying, there'll be further clarity over the next weeks and months before the next report comes to Cabinet.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm sure heads of service will be talking to their lead members to discuss the plans for those carry forwards.
Members okay with that? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Sorry? Yes, I come to me. Okay, I'll come to just one thing from me on the justifying the support for the destination management plan with a bit more detail. We are anticipating more visitors into Denbighshire this year, not in hope, but in expectation because of the present circumstances. So we have discussed the need to invest in some service in particular to deal with the pressures that will entail, such as in Tony Ward's service, ensuring that our towns are tidy, clearing the bins on a more regular basis, that type of thing. So making sure there's capacity there to deal with the influx, and also in Emlyn's service, that the visitor experience into our countryside locations are managed differently. An example would be if there's an overcrowding in a certain area, that we're able to possibly redirect visitors to less popular areas and try and spread the pressure across the authority. So there is a need to maintain that funding there in case those issues arise over the summer months. And I think it's a good plan forward, really. Okay, Meirig, o ti eisiau dod I fewn?
O, diolch yn fawr eto, ac ysgydeirydd. Tudalen 61, Ysgol Llanfair. O ran gwybodaeth, dyd y gwir, petai'r Ysgol Llanfair yn cael ei gwerthu yn y dyfodol, a fasa'r gwerthiant yn dod o dan y cyngor sir, a nhw fasa'n cael yr arian, neu yr Eglwys yng Nghymru.
Diolch, Meirig. Dwi'n yn siŵr am hwnna.
Amser ni, wrach, ond
Huw,
yn y
dwi'n
dyfodol.
gwybod os wyt ti'n gynateb i hwnna ar y adser yma.
Na, i ddweud gwir,
I'll try. I don't know whether Steve might, or whether Tom's still on the call, that might be able to give a bit more detail.
I think
The way this was set, the way this particular one was set up is essentially it was a land swap with the church, so that they would receive the footprint of the new school site, and we would receive ownership of the former school site. Now, clearly, once that has happened, that former school site would be Denbish's property to do with as we wish. I suppose I'm not sure whether the question you were asking, Merrick, was what would happen with the new school site going forward, because that clearly the building is ours, but the land on which it's built is owned by the Church of Wales, which is similar to the situation we're in with a number of schools in the authority. Clearly, there will be what's going through now will be a full legal agreement to ensure to safeguard our interests as the tenant, so to speak. But the land on which the building is built would remain in the ownership of the church.
Yeah,
that's my understanding.
Diolch yn fawr, Julian. Jyst I ddod nôl, Mr Cadeirydd, be o'n i'n boeni oedd, pe mae ysgol eglwys yn cael ei gwerthu rwan, nhw pia yr ysgol a'r tir. Pen werthydd hon mewn cam mlynedd, dos yn deud pryd wneith I gael ei gwerthu I wneud ysgol fwy, pwy fydd cael yr arian?
Dwi'n yn siŵr iawn am hwnna, Meirig. Llwn ni cael bach mwy o manylion ar hynny, ond dwi'n siŵr y peth pwysica...
Ga I adael hefo chi?
Ie, gadael efo ni, Meirig. Ond dwi'n siŵr...
Yr ail gwestiwn, Mr Cadeirydd.
Gwytio fyny, Meirig, jyst gaf I ateb. Fel aelod lleol hefyd, y peth pwysica bod yr ysgol yna yn aros fel y mae mor hir ac y medru, ond bod ni yn achub diddordebau y sir yn y blynyddoedd blaenorol ar ôl hynny. So, nhw'n ni dod yn ôl at y ti ar hwnna, Meirig.
Iawn, diolch yn fawr. Troi at tudalen 65 yn atodiad 4. Mae ei wneud hefo y cyfyngiadau gyrru sydd I fyny, yn da chi'n dod ar hyd ffordd y graig, allan o Ddinbych, a cyrraedd y safle yma, gyda phob parch, a dwi'n cyd-weld, da chi'n rhoi uchafswm o 30 milltir yr awr. Ond am ryw reswm, pe mae hwnna'n gorffen I fyny'r ffordd ar ôl pasio'r safle, mae'n ein arall wedyn, a thi osod I wneud lledu ffordd nes ymlaen, a mae hwnnw'n dal yno ar gwaith wedi orffen.
Reit, Meirig. Dwi'n ddim yn pwrpasol i'r adroddiad, ond dwi'n siŵr wrach llith Brian Jones edrych I fewn I hwnna ag ymateb.
Diolch yn fawr, da chi'n garedig ti hwnt, Mr Cadeirydd.
Okay, Brian, can you look into that, please, and just follow it up? Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Bobby's got a hand up, Hugh.
Yeah. If I can step back to your comment about can I make a point, leader, please?
Brian, yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Going back to your point about tidy towns, etc. I did a scout round of some businesses and taxi people. Last weekend, they were telling me that the increase in the footfall level of business is sort of triple what they were expecting. The head of service did speak to me about this fund for keeping the towns tidy through the summer, and I don't know what the figure was that was agreed on in the end, but I did say to the head of service, really, if this takes off and the visitors to Denbighshire do end up being way above what we were anticipating, And those indications I got last weekend of business people before things are fully opened, we're in for a real busy time. So that funding that's going to be available, I think it needs to be open-ended, not an open checkbook as such. But we don't want the relevant departments working under the pressure of not being able to keep places tidy and clean because they're looking at a pot of money that potentially might dry up. So I just want to make that point.
Thank you, Brian, for that. I think in where we're at now, we'll monitor the commitments so far, and if the pressures emerge over the next few months, we might have to just revisit the amounts provided. But I think we're pretty well placed at the moment if you're minded to support this recommendation.
That's right, yeah. But I think officers can look now what is happening to footfall, what is happening to visitor numbers now, and that'll give a feel now, you know, in the next week, 2 weeks. And if it is jumping significantly, they're going to be better prepared to deal with June, July, because you'll see the tsunami of how it's going to go with staycation.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. Point made. Bobby, did you want to come back?
Well, when I put my hand up, it was relevant to a question that Mairig had asked, and it was an aside, if you like, from my point of view, as someone who drives past it every day. Denbighshire have made a really good progress, or before the pandemic they did, in dealing with various eyesores across the county. And the old school and land in Llanfair looks absolutely appalling, all boarded up. And I would hate to think, Mairig talked about 100 years or something in our possession. I would hate to think that in this very prominent position, I would like to see something done to make sure this doesn't become an eyesore of the future. I appreciate this is your patch, leader, not mine, but just as an interested bystander, I would like to make that point.
Thank you, Bobby. Point well made. There are ongoing discussions with the Community Council to deal with this site, and there's a report due to Asset Management at the beginning of May to see if we can progress the building and the field, which is adjoining the building as well. So it's work in progress, Bobby.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments? No, Nabe? Okay, Julian, can you come to the recommendation, please?
Yes, I can, leader. So 3.1, that members note the budget set for 2020-21 and progress against the agreed strategy. 3.2, that members approve the establishment of a specific reserve with a transfer of £200,000 to help fund work over the coming summer as part of the destination management plan, as per section 6.3. And 3.3, that members approve the establishment of a specific reserve with a transfer of £59,000 to help fund upfront project costs relating to the new ways of working project, as per section 6.4 of the report.
Okay, that's been moved. Does someone second that?
I'll second that, leader.
Richard, second that. Everybody in agreement? Nobody against? Thank you, Julian, for that. Agenda item 7 is the Cabinet Forward Work Plan. Gary, please.
Yes, there's an additional item for the 25th of May, which is the reactive maintenance framework for schools and non-schools properties.
Thank you, Gary. Any comments from Cabinet members on this one? No, okay, that's fine. That's for information. Right, we'll move forward. Can someone move that we go to part 2, please?
Move.
Move. We'll go to agenda 8. We'll just wait for